Okay, so what you're going to want to do is go into your, I need to call roll here. Okay, so what you're going to do is go into your content, and we're going to go to Module 6, Project. Be sure to be doing this from my Marymount. And I'm going to launch it, let it do all its fun things. Click the Start button, and you're going to download the instruction file and the start file. I already have the instruction file downloaded, so I'm just going to download the start file and open up that file. Enable editing. And the first thing that you want to do is save the file. I save mine to my OneDrive. I have my OneDrive set up, so if you haven't yet set up your OneDrive, you should do that. In fact, why don't we do that right now? So if you go back to my Marymount and you click on email, do you all have OneDrive as an app available? This guy right here. The cloud. It's the cloud. I don't know why they call it the cloud. Well, it's not a cloud. Everything goes to the cloud. I heard someplace that these are just a bunch of, warehouses of servers, and some of them are even stored underwater. Oh yeah. So yes. So now that we've saved the file, the instructions are asking us to switch to the, so we have a situation, we have Cyril Natriba, and he works at Fish Chips Electronics. So they sell inexpensive computers to schools to help teach computer science and electrical engineering. And he wants to summarize information in this spreadsheet and help him train a new sales associate. So he needs to do some things here now that he has to train others. So the first thing they want us to do is to switch to the systems worksheet and select the range A1 to H9 and format the range as a table with headers using the table style medium 14. So I'm going to go over to the systems worksheet and I'm going to blow mine up a little bit so you all can see it. And I'm going to highlight cells A1 to H9, and on the Home tab, I'm going to click Format as a Table, and then go down to Medium 14, which is this one down here to the right column, far right column, second row on the medium section. I click that one, and another dialog box pops up, and it says, "Where's the data for your table?" That's correct, A1 to H9, and yes, your table has headers. Your table has headers. These are headers up here, right? System, name, processor speed. They're headings for what's underneath. So I click OK, and yours should look like this. So now it's a table. How do you know that this is a table? By looking at your table. The headers have different background, right? So it's been set up. So this is kind of like a darker green, and then all these are the data below it. What else is going on in the headers? See these little drop-down dialog boxes, these drop-down arrows? Each one of them has its own drop-down box, and it basically allows you to filter or sort really easily using these dialog boxes. So, for example, if I only wanted to show data that had 2 USB ports or systems that had 2 USB ports, I would click on the down arrow, and then down where it says select all, I would check that or uncheck that, and then recheck 2 because we only want 2s to show, and I click OK, and it just shows that one with the 2. And if you look at this little drop down arrow, it's changed to show it's got a little tiny drop down arrow, and then this funnel thing, I guess that's supposed to represent a filter. So it's showing that it's been filtered. So if I want to show all of them again, I click on select all and I click OK, and then they all come back. So these are tables. Notice that there's a striking similarity to this table here, right? So you're collecting a database, and a table is the same thing as a database in Excel. These guys up here are headers. I just have mine going sideways. And then all the information down below is data. So when you have the data, Excel loves data in the form of a database because it can do all kinds of things with it that way. So just get used to formatting data that way. All right, so now we formatted the first task. Oh, and then we want to do one other thing. So when you are in a table, it's contextual. So the other thing to notice is that there's this little right, I don't know, corner piece here, this blue guy down here. That tells you that it's also a table. And if I dragged it over, it would create another column. And if I dragged it down, it would create more rows of data as well. But I don't want to do that, so I'm going to undo these things. So tables are interesting, and they're contextual. And when you're outside of a table, you get one ribbon. When you're inside of a table, you get a different ribbon. And this Table Tools dialog, or the tab, pops up, and then we get this Design tool, and we're going to be using this quite a bit to do all kinds of things to it. So also over here, when you're in the Design tab, you can name a table. So sometimes you need to refer to the whole table, and so you can give it a name. And they're asking us to give this table a name, and the name of the table is Systems Table. So I'm going to type in Systems, all, and then capital T, BLE, ABLE, it's all one word. And I'm going to hit Enter. And now the table has been named. Before it gave it some generic name, and now we have a unique name for it. If I click outside, that goes away. If I click inside, it comes back. So another property of a table is that you can add data to the table simply by starting to type in the cell that is in the next row below the table. If I do it here, it won't work, but if I do it here, it will. And it's asking us to add data, oh, not to this table, actually on the sensors table, right? Yeah. So let me just blow this up a little bit. They're asking us to add data to the sensors table, and so switch to that worksheet and then type under where it says sensor ID, start to type S487. S487. And then if I tab over to the next column, so I think they wanted that to be a capital S. To the next column, notice how the whole row has been added to the table. This little blue box has been dragged down to here, or this little blue corner piece. So that means that the information in here is part of the table. And they want us to add ADDI humidity sensor. Humidity sensor, and it's Fish Chip Classic compatible. So yes, so I type capital Y, and watch what happens. As soon as I type capital Y, the ES pops in there, right? So automatically it's called autofill, and it autofills in there because we have this information up above. So I can just tab on over to the next without typing the ES, type capital Y again, tab over, and then this is a no, and this is 550. I'm just going to put 5.5, and it'll do all the rest for me. So Excel's trying to save you some keystrokes that way. All right, so number 2, we've added data. Now they want us to sort the data in here based on cost from the smallest to the largest. So since this is a table, how do we sort all this from based on cost from the smallest cost to the largest cost? Anybody know? Well, tables have unique properties, so we're going to take advantage of these little drop-down boxes. So I'm going to click on that one. If you noticed, there's filters, which we were focusing on earlier, but now we can sort based on smallest to largest. And so when we do the sort, it's going to bring all this information. It's not just going to sort this column. It's going to sort all the rest of the information that's associated with this particular item with it, right? So because it's in a table. So I'm going to click smallest to largest, and there it goes. So everything else gets sorted. Now everything is sorted from cost from lowest to highest. Yes? Yes. Okay, so would it be ascending or descending? Ascending, yeah. You're using a Mac? Yeah, that's okay. So it's going to be a little bit different. So now it's all been sorted. And now we're going to filter it. So on the sensors worksheet, Cyril wants to display only sensors that are compatible with the FishChip 3 systems below the sensors data. So what we're going to be doing is an advanced filter. So you see here you have a data table, and it's got all the information in it, and we want to pull out into a new table down below here a subset of the data. We only want to pull out the FishChip 3 compatible units. So that means that anytime that there's a no, those data are not dragged down here. So there's something called an advanced filter. So in order to use that, we only want to choose the ones that say yes, and they're the FishChip compatible 3. So we have this little kind of mediating data table, which is we're going to use for the criteria to select out the data that we want. So we're going to enter yes into cell E19. So I'm going to type in capital YES. So that's the only criteria. We could have other criteria here as well, but we're just pulling out the yeses. So based on that, how many rows of data do you think we're going to pull out? You just have to count the yeses. 10. Right, so it's 10 yeses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so we know that. Now we're going to use the advanced filter. So what we need to do is just make sure that you're highlighted somewhere in the table, and we go over to the Data tab, and over where it says Sort and Filter, kind of in the middle here, there's an advanced tool. So I click on that guy, and the action is that we want to copy to another location, right? Because we know that we want all the data to appear down below. The list range is this information here, so that's all that we want. And the criteria range is, whoops, this guy down here. Whoops, sorry. Let me undo that. Start over here. Advanced. Copy to another location. The criteria range is cell A18 to F19. And we want to copy it to, in this case, we only have to highlight the headers or the field names. Headers and field names are the same. So in other words, when I call FishChip Classic compatible as a header, it also is a field name. And then this whole column of data is the field. All right, so I've highlighted that, and now I click OK, and it's pulled out all of the 10 rows of data that we want. Why would you want to do that? Can you think of any examples and anything that you do? Right, so this is a new database and it only shows the compatible. You can think of maybe you're doing a big party, you're planning a big party and you've used Evite and you've collected everyone's yeses and nos and maybes, and you only want the yeses because you're going to print out their name tags or something like that. And so that's what you could do that. Like anybody who said yes, just pull that information and then you can use the data down below here to print it out. So it's a useful thing to do sometimes. All right, so now we have that unique database. Is there anything else they want us to do? That's it. Okay, so we're going to switch to the displays worksheet. Let me make this a little bit bigger. And here you have a bunch of displays. Here, and boy, this is up to date. We even have OLED monitors. I don't know of any OLED monitors for computers out there, but in any case, we have these and different types of monitors, touch screens, LED. That's what we have here. Anyway, so they want us to wrap the text. Let's do a text wrap here. So for cells E1 to G1, you can see how they kind of bleed into each other. So I'm going to right-click on those after highlighting them. Click on Format Cells, Alignment, and check the Wrap Text box. Click OK. And now the text is wrapped within the cell. Okay, so that just means that it made the box taller, grew the height so it can fit all the information in that needs to be fit in. All right, now sometimes when you collect data, you have duplicates of data. Like if you're doing that Evite, maybe you sent it to the husband and wife and they both responded, right? And you don't need to have both of their information in there. So in any case, there happens to be a duplicate in this database. Does it pop out at you right away? No. So we're going to use, computers are really good at finding data and duplicates and things like that. It's kind of like doing a spell check, right? So, or search, find and replace kind of thing. So in this case, we're going to be eliminating a duplicate. Has anyone spotted the duplicate yet? That's it. So yeah, you could go through and scan it, but imagine if you had thousands of records, you're not going to have time to do that and you're going to go blind. So let's let the computer do what it's supposed to do, and we're going to use the tool. So if we go over to the, in this case, make sure you've highlighted on any cell within the table to make that cell active, and then go to the Data tab, and then click on the click on the Design tab, and then over on the left where the tools, there's a Remove Duplicate tool. Click on that one, and yeah. So we click on OK, and there you go. That one was removed. You can see that there's still that space left for it, but the values are gone. One duplicate value found and removed. 11 unique values remain. So click OK, and there you go. Now is probably a good time to save your file. Number 6 is done. Number 7. We're on number 7 here. LED displays are the most popular displays sold by fish chips, and Cyril wants to highlight these displays in the table. Filter the table to display only those records with the type column value of LED. So I go back to Excel, use our filter over here, And we only want LED, so how do I get just LED to show up? What do I check and uncheck? Uncheck, select all, and select LED. Very good. There you go. Now it's just the LEDs are showing. And notice we have our little drop-down arrow miniaturized and then a little filter thing next to it to show that this data table has been filtered. So sometimes when someone sends you an Excel file, they may send it to you already filtered. So it's just a good idea to keep an eye out for making sure that everything is showing that should be showing. Okay, so number 8. At the beginning of the year, Fish Chips Electronics makes a bulk order of cases for each system they sell. Cyril wishes to show his sales associate a snapshot of the number of cases that were ordered, sold, and are available at the warehouse for each fish chip system. Cyril already sorted the table containing the data. He just needs to insert subtotals into the table. So in our table, we need to go to the cases subtotal. And so here we have another database or table, right? So we have case ID. These are field names or headers or variables, right? And then we have all the data down below. So we want to get subtotals of each one of the system types. So we have our Fish Chip Classic, we have our Fish Chip 2 and Fish Chip 3. I'm in the mood for fish and chips. I don't know why. We want, so it's been sorted. So in order to insert subtotals, it will insert a subtotal at every break in particular set of values. So we want to insert, basically there's going to be a line inserted underneath Fish Chip Classic, and it's going to give us the subtotals for all the inventory for each of those. The same thing for Fish Chip 2 and Fish Chip 3. In order to do that, you have to convert your table back to a range. There's a difference between a table and a range, and a table has all these different fancy features, and a range is just a set of data, what doesn't do anything for you. So in order to do that, I'm going to go back to my Design tab and make sure that you're highlighted in the table in order to get that Design tab. I'm going to click on Convert to Range. And then it's going to ask you, do you want to convert the table to a normal range? So I click Yes. And it doesn't look like much has happened, but notice how all those little drop-down arrows are gone. And that little blue corner piece is gone. So now it's been converted into a range, and now we can use our Subtotal tool, and that is on the Data tab. And way over to the right, make sure that your Excel spreadsheet is maximized so you can see it. I'm going to click on the Subtotal tool, and it's asking us at each change in, it's defaulted to case ID, that just happens to be the first field there, but we want it at each change in the system compatibility, right? So anytime there's a change, see it goes Fish Chip Classic, and now it's changed to Fish Chip 2, so it's going to insert a subtotal right before that. So we're going to click on the drop-down arrow, choose System Compatibility. So at each change in System Compatibility, we want to use the function sum. All right, so that's already been chosen. There are other functions you can use, such as count, average, max, min, product. In this case, we want the sum function. And we only want to add it for the ones that have data in them, or numbers in them. So that's the 2018 inventory, the cases sold, the cases available. So I'm going to click on 2018 inventory, cases sold and cases available. We're going to leave replace current subtotals because we haven't done any yet, but that's fine. And we want the data, the summary, to be below the data. I click OK, and voila, we now have subtotals for each system compatibility type. So for all the Fish Chip Classics, we have subtotals. For all the Fish Chip 2s and Fish Chip 3s, and it's also added a grand total. Now notice over here to the left of your Excel spreadsheet, we have like this outline tool. So what this is showing is that there's 3 levels of data. 3 meaning that 3 showing that there's all. So if I wanted to show less data and just show the subtotals and the totals, I would click on 2. All right, so now you can see a bunch of rows have been eliminated, and we're just seeing the subtotals and the grand totals. Right, the Fish Chip Classic total, the Fish Chip 2 total, Fish Chip 3, even though they say total, they're subtotals. If I want to bring them back, I click on 3. So if I just wanted to show the data for Fish Chip 2 and Fish Chip 3, I would click on the minus sign for the first group, and it brings it back and forth. So anyway, it's just an outline template that you can use. It's helpful for looking at data and sorting and filtering the data. Any questions? I know I'm going kind of fast, but you all seem to be keeping up. So the next one, number... Did I do it? Yeah. Yes, okay, we've done that one. All right, number 10. Cyril wishes to highlight some additional data on the cases sold by Fish Chips, and he wants to identify how many options are available for each type of case. So we're going to now switch to the cases worksheet and complete the following steps to identify how many case options are available for each case type. So, and then we're going to use the count if function. So I always think of there's a lot of counting in Excel, so every time I hear about counting, I think of that. Did everybody watch Sesame Street? Remember font count, right? So we're going to use our font count. It's going to help out here in a little bit. So I'm going to go over to the cases and the worksheet, and you can see here that we have 2 tables, one summarizing all the data, and then the other showing all the data. In this case, we have case types. I shouldn't use the word case. Case types, which are unibody, 2-piece, and compact. And so that's based on all the information here. And what they're asking us to do is to count how many unibodies are there, how many 2-pieces are there, and how many compacts are there. So we could do it the hard way and count them up, like how many unibodies? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's 10 unibodies. We could have done that and typed it in there, but we want Excel to do all the work for us because maybe there's thousands of rows of data rather than just, a couple dozen. And so we're going to use a function called the count if function. So I'm going to type equals count if, and then open parenthesis, and then we have the 2 parameters. There's range and criteria. So the range is body type, right? So I'm going to highlight this range here by clicking on cell D7 and dragging it on down to D30 with the left mouse button. That's our first range here. And then the criteria is, and then I have to put comma after the criteria. So the criteria is what? It's unibody. So I'm going to type in open parentheses unibody and then close the parentheses. Why do I have to put a parentheses around, quotation marks? Why do I have to put quotation marks around the word unibody? It's just something that Excel requires because it's not a number. If it was just a number, I could have just put, 13 if that was a number it was looking for. But in this case, because it's not a number, it has to have quotation marks around it in order for it to find it. So I have the quotes around that unibody, and then I'm going to close the parentheses and then hit enter, and it should return a value of 10, which it did. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing for two-piece and compact. So I want to just remind you of the paste gallery. Remember that? So rather than doing all that again, I'm just going to, since we've already identified the range and then the criteria, the only thing that changes is the name. So unibody is going to become two-piece in this one and then compact in this one. So I'm just going to copy the whole formula. The way to do that is I'm going to right-click on this cell C2, click copy, and then I'm going to, with my left mouse button, I'm going to click on cell C3 and then hold it down until I get to C4. Let go, and then go back to the Home tab. Go to the Paste button, click on the down arrow, and then remember the function. This will copy the formula. So the formulas. It shows a function, but basically it's copying the formulas here. So I'm going to click on that, and now it's copied the exact same formula into each cell. So none of the formatting has changed or anything like that, but we have to fix these. In this case, unibody needs to be compact in cell C4. So I'm going to type in compact, and then in this case, unibody needs to be changed to two-piece, 2-piece. Hit enter, so 11. So 11, 10 cases of unibody, 11 two pieces, and 2 compacts. Is that right? Compact, yep. 1, 2 compacts. All right, I'm not going to count the others, so I'm going to assume that Excel did its work. Any questions? All right, so we've done the count if. Now we're going to go over here. So counting is literally that. It's going through and it's counting 1, 2, 3, 4. Cases sold over here, we don't count because we want to add, right? Because there's not just one case, there's multiple cases in each row. So we want to add these. So in this case, we want to add all the unibody cases sold, all the two pieces, and all the compacts. So it's a different if function, but it's very similar. So we're going to type in equals sum if, and then open parentheses, and the range for, so it's only for the, yes, so again, the range is for the body type. This is the range that we want to look across. The criteria, again, is quotation unibody, comma, and then the sum range is H7 to H30. And then we hit close parentheses and hit enter, and returns a value of 359 cases sold. So what that's doing is basically adding up anytime that it's finding unibody across the body type, it's adding those in. Yes? Okay, so now we want to do the same thing for the two-piece and the compact. So I'm going to type in equals sum if, and then open parentheses, and the criteria again. The range is, it's going to search across this range and look for, in this case, two-piece. So I type in quotation marks, 2-piece, close quotation marks, put the parenthesis, put the comma after the quotation marks. By the way, this is bad grammar. usually the comma goes inside the quotation marks. But anyway, Excel won't know what you're talking about. And then the cases sold over here, we highlight all those, and then close the parenthesis, hit enter, and then you get the 392. And then we're going to do the same thing for compact. So we type equals sum if, open parentheses, our range is this range over here. The criteria is quote compact, end quote, comma, and then cases sold, close parenthesis, and 187. Questions? Okay, so now we get to have fun with icon sets. And in number 12, where's number 12? In the range H8 to H30, the cases sold column, create a new icon set, conditional formatting rule, as described below. So they want us to use the 3 signs, which is green circle, yellow triangle, and red diamond, and using all these criteria. So it has to be a number, it has to be greater than, so you'll see what I mean in a second. So let's go over to our Excel spreadsheet, and over here you highlight H8 to H30, and go over to conditional formatting, click on the drop-down box, and then where it says icon sets, go all the way down to where it says more rules, and they want us to format the cells based on their values using icon sets, but this is not the right style. They want this one. Yeah, here it is. So we're going to use this style, and it defaulted to a percent, so we want it to be a number in both cases, and they wanted to show a little green icon anytime it's greater than 60. So like here we should see a green icon next to this 106 number. So we greater than or equal to 60, so we type in 60 here, and then it needs to be, and then less, and then when it's greater than or equal to 25, and less than or equal to 60, it should be a yellow, and then red when it's greater than 0, and then less than 25. So I'm going to click OK, and there you go. So it's put in those little icons into the cells here. It's kind of helpful. I might add that to my database just to show like whether or not I'm, if I'm eating 2 or more fast food meals in a day, I might show a little red diamond, or green if it's 0. Might be fun to look at. Anyway, so you can see here these are supposed to be diamonds. It's just the resolution's so bad on my monitor. It's not until I blow it up that you can see that it's a diamond. Anyway, does yours look like that? No? It's not? So now we are going to sort the table here and using a custom sort. So if you're using an Apple, a Mac, it's going to look a little different than what I have on the screen here. But the way to do that is just click somewhere on the table, go over to the Data tab, and there's a Sort tool here. This is the Custom Sort tool, and it brings up this dialog box. And you can see in the Custom Sort, you can have multiple levels of sorting, and then options, etc. So there are columns, which are the things that we're going to sort on. So if I click on the first one, it's asking us to sort it based on system compatibility. So I'm going to choose that, and it wants it in descending order. So you're going to sort on values, and the order is going to be descending. Is A to Z descending? It's ascending, right? So we want to make it Z to A. So I click on Z to A, And I'm not going to click OK yet because we're going to have multiple levels. So what this is going to do is basically going to sort all the data based on the system compatibility type. Am I in the right? Yeah. So we want to add a level, and we want to then sort by body material, and it's to be ascending, and then we want to add another level. So basically, first it's going to sort by system compatibility, and then once it's done that, it's going to sort body material within system compatibility, and then we're going to sort by, what is it, body type in ascending order. So I click OK, and everything has been sorted, right? So first we have the system compatibility. Make this a little smaller. It's sorted, and then within there, it's sorted by body material, aluminum, plastic, and then within that, it's sorted by unibody, two-piece, and then unibody. Does that work? Yeah, I spelled this right. Yes. Okay, so 14. We're going to add a total roll to the cases table. Hint, the total rolls should appear in row 31 with a total for cases sold automatically appearing in cell H31. So let's go to our table here, and we're going to add a total row. So because we have a table, tables have certain properties that we can do things with. If I click on the Design tab, notice over here in the middle there's table style options, and notice total rows unchecked. We're going to check it. So I click that, and it's automatically added in row 31 a total. So it's totaled up all the cases sold there. And it's now has special properties. If I click on any of these cells beneath the table, I can do things like I could average all the data above them. I can sum them. I can find the min or max, right? We do this a lot. In this case, in cell G31, they want us to add the total, so that's the sum function. So I choose that and returns a value of 1,825 units of inventory. Got it? Next one, number 15. Upon review of the cases table, Cyril notices that the cases available column needs to be added. So what happened was that we have our inventory. He originally bought 50 of these aluminum fish chip classic unibody standard colored things, and Cyril sold 28 of them. So that means that there's some left over, right, in left in inventory. So have available. So what would be the difference between 50 minus 28? How many cases would be left? 22. So rather than having to do the math, we're going to use some of the special features of a table, and we're going to type in right next to the column of cases sold, cases available. And then hit enter and watch what happens. Notice how it's added all these rows of this column of data for cases available, so it's part of the table. Yes. So the question is, can we do that by just dragging the icon over like this? Yeah. And then change the name? Definitely. So it's cases. That works just fine. But we're going to use our field names now to do a little math for us. So we want to do the subtraction, and there's a shortcut. So if I type in equals and then open bracket, notice how all the field names pop up, case ID, blah, blah, blah. So we want to subtract the 2018 inventory. We want to subtract the number of cases sold from the total inventory that there originally was. So I'm going to double click on the 2018 inventory, and that just types all that in for me. And then I'm going to close the bracket. And when you close the bracket, it's going to highlight all the data that's in that column, meaning that it's going to do everything in this column here. So we have to subtract the cases sold. So I put minus and then open the bracket, and then double click on cases sold, close bracket, and it's highlighted all that, hit enter, and now it's entered in all the data for the cases available, right? 50 minus 28 is 22, so it's done the math for us. So you can see here, it's taking advantage of the field names rather than having to type in the cell names. In row 31, we need to click on cell I31, click on the drop-down box, and click sum and get a return value of 887. Now is probably a good time to save your file. Number 16, Fish Chips Electronics also sells packaged sets that combine popular fish chip systems with an LED display, a case, and a simple project guide. The package table on the packages worksheet identifies the system and display included in each package by ID number rather than by name. Cyril wants to set up a simple lookup table to make it easier for his new sales associate to identify what's included in each package. Okay, so yeah, it takes a while to figure out all that stuff up, and so he's created this little lookup table. So we're going to switch to the packages worksheet. So let's go to the packages worksheet. I'll make mine a little bit bigger. And in the packages worksheet, they're asking us to do a few things. They want us to create in cell H3 a Vlookup. So Vlookup is just simply a way of referring to another table and looking up specific information. So in cell H3, we're going to type the function, the formula equals, using the function Vlookup, equals Vlookup, and then open parenthesis. And here are the arguments for the lookup. There's a lookup value, right? So in this case, it's J3, so I'm going to type J3. And then put comma, that's this value right here. And then the table array, which is just simply where is it supposed to look? That's this table here. So that's cell G7 to H12. So I highlight that, and then hit parentheses, and then the column index number is simply which column is it supposed to return the value. So in this case, we have a lookup table with two columns. So which number column is it? 1 or 2? That's supposed to return the system name. It's already got 4036. That's where it's looking. That's the lookup range. So it's column 2. So I type in 2. Close the parenthesis, hit enter, and now you can see, since the system ID is 4036, it's returned fish chip 3 mod C. Right? If it was a 3014, oops, well, I don't know why. No. I'm just showing you that it returns fish chip vinegar, right? So it's just returning the name in the column by looking it up in this column. It's VLOOKUP because these columns are vertical. So I'm just going to undo all this. Oops, redo that. There you go. Leave the option. Okay. Number 17, they're asking us to, in cell H5, to create another VLOOKUP function to display the name of the package using the following parameters. So we'll do that. So basically, they're asking us to return, I think it's the price. In cell H2, we've done that. That was number 17. Wait. In cell H5, so that's this cell here. It's actually been merged. But in cell H5, we're going to use VLOOKUP to display the name of the package using the following parameters. We're going to type in equals VLOOKUP, open parenthesis, and the lookup value is H2, right? H2. That's this value here. So it's looking up P12687, and it needs to return the cost of that. And so all our cost information is over here in this table, in this package ID. So that's the table array. So I'm going to put the comma. Now it's looking for the table array. So that's A1 to D22, hit comma, right? So 12687. So it should return a value of 66 because that's right here. And it's in this array, this table array, which column has the cost information? 4. So I'm going to type the number 4, close the parentheses, and hit return, and there you go, $66. Okay, two more. Number 18. Cyril also wants to highlight the number of packages associated with the latest iteration of the fish chip system, the fish chip 3 module C+. In cell H16, create a formula using the D count. The function to count the number of packages associated with the fish chip 3 module C+ systems using the range A1 to D21 as the database. System ID as a field, and the range H14 to H15 is the criteria. Well, let's go back and look at this, see what all that means. So in this case, they want us to decount. So that means count. It's kind of like count if, but in this case, since we have it in the database, we can just use the decount. And so in cell H16, I'm going to type equals decount. Keep wanting to type my name because I have an OU in my name. And the database is, what is the database? D1, A1 to D22 again. The field is system ID. So I'm going to type in open quote system space, and then capital I, capital D, and then close the quotes, put a comma afterwards. And the criteria, oh wait. Oh yeah, the criteria is H14 to H15. So that's these right here. So it's looking through the table for anytime it says system ID, and then it's looking for this specific system ID, 4037. So I'm going to close the parentheses, hit enter, and there's 5 of them. Okay, so there's 5 4037. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's counted all those up. Now it wants us to figure out what the cost is for these. So that's using, or the average cost of all these. So that's using D average. So I'm going to type in D average in cell H17. So equals D average, open parentheses. The database is A1 to D21. The field in this case is, I'm sorry, what's the field? Cost. Thank you. So it's open quote, cost. Is that right? Yeah. Comma. And the criteria now is H14, H16. So it's now looking for any time that it's model 4037 and across all 5 of those. So I click close parentheses, and the average cost is $73.81. So I'm going to save the file, and I think we're done. So you can go ahead and go back to your SAM project and resubmit it and see how you did. Submit it. How'd you do? 100. I got 100. I did not get 100 the first time around, so don't feel bad if you didn't get 100. But that's all there is to it.